Our first guest tonight, Democratic Congressman Eugene Vindman, questioned Pete Hegseth when he testified to the House Armed Services Committee on Wednesday about American lives lost in Trump's war.
On March 1st, 6 Army soldiers, including a constituent of mine, were killed by an Iranian drone strike. Do you take any responsibility for those deaths?
I was there at Dover when they came back. Of course, I take responsibility for every aspect of this
Well, I appreciate that, because you also complain about the fact that tragic things happen. The news makes it front-page news. The press only wants to make the president look bad. Is it about the soldiers, or is it about the president looking bad?
It's not just the president who wants, or the media that wants to make him look bad. It's you.
It's actually about the soldiers, and it's frankly reprehensible that you would make that statement.
Joining us now is the Democratic Congressman Eugene Vindman of Virginia. He's a member of the Armed Services Committee. He's a retired Army colonel. I remember when Pete Hegseth was in the Pentagon briefing room and he said that he said, you know, why you guys always go for these headlines that make the president look bad? This was after soldiers were killed in a war that they won't call a war, that they won't ask Congress permission to fight, and they won't justify why it's happening or how it's going to end. I think the point you brought up was key. People have died. Innocent people have died, whether they are U.S. members of the U.S. military or civilians on the ground all across the region who had nothing to do with this war.
Absolutely. Look, the statement that the secretary made during that press conference was shameful. It was dishonorable. It was disgusting. And I gave him an opportunity to take it back. And he doubled down. I mean, for him, he's got an audience of one. He's got to please the president. And the cavalier attitude that he and the president have displayed to American casualties and the deaths in this war, and frankly, the 400 or so that have been wounded is unacceptable. That is, those lives are permanently injured. The families, I met the families, I met the children that had lost parents, the parents that had lost children, and just unacceptable behavior.
So when one of your colleagues suggested that the U.S. might have gotten himself into a bit of a quagmire here, which happens, he thought that was insulting. Hegseth said it's 2 months in. To call this a quagmire is an insult to the troops who are fighting this war. But it's an insult to the troops to send them into wars without any valid justification.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a job to do. We represent constituencies. In my case, I represent 3 military installations, 72,000 veterans, nearly 20,000 active duty service members. And it is my job to ask the tough questions about how we ended up in a war without a plan, and what is our plan on getting out of this war. And the secretary, frankly, did not have a plan. And right now, this preposterous statement saying that the ceasefire is a termination of the conflict is just absolute nonsense. A ceasefire is just that, cease firing. It's a temporary pause to bombing, shooting, and fighting. The president and the secretary owe it to the American people and owe it to Congress to come with a plan on how we actually exit a conflict where the status quo before would be, frankly, a dream. You know, the Iranians control the Strait of Hormuz. Oil prices have skyrocketed. The American people are paying the price for this war.
So there's a lot of trickery going on because they really haven't called it a war. They've not gone to Congress to ask permission for this. Now Donald Trump says, he used the term, the war has been terminated because of the ceasefire. The idea here is not simply that Congress may not give Donald Trump permission to conduct this war. It might not. It's going to be close one way or the other. It's that the president seems to be making the point that I don't really have to get your approval to go to war.
Well, he's done that repeatedly. I mean, this is sort of the 8th conflict twice now in Iran that we've been engaged in conflict. And the president has not sought congressional approval for any of these. And he's gotten basically a blank check, a rubber stamp from the Republican-led House of Representatives and the Senate. And he doesn't feel like he has an obligation to take this to the American people or Congress. And that is why this war is so unpopular. 2 months in, obviously the American people are paying higher gas prices and there's significant inflation. But I'll tell you, one of the reasons is the president never laid out the case of why we need to fight now in Iran. And that's showing in the approval.
And there are a lot of experts who are involved in this who say there was more space on the diplomatic front. There was more space on the sanctions front. There was a lot more to do. The idea of choosing war when you have other options is a difficult and complicated one, and it doesn't seem to make sense. And Pete Hegseth couldn't seem to make it make sense in his performance before Congress this week.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he struggled to make the case. He claimed repeatedly that, imagine Iran with a nuclear weapon. Well, guess what? Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
Correct.
Iran has not demonstrated a desire to get a nuclear weapon. In fact, there was a fatwa issued by the previous Ayatollah prohibiting a nuclear weapon. The assessments were that there is no nuclear weapon. Now, obviously, that would be an unacceptable outcome, but it is an absolute fabrication to claim that they were on the verge of a nuclear weapon, especially 8 or 9 months now, or I guess a little bit more, since we obliterated
it. Yes.
Last year. It's outrageous. It's nonsensical.
And they both make the point that a nuclear weapon on a missile that can hit America, also that they don't have. So at some point, whatever this is, we call it a war or not, it's built on a house of cards. Congressman, good to see you as always. Thank you. Congressman Eugene Vindman of Virginia.